please. Okay. So today I'd like to start by showing you guys a video that I recently found on Twitter. That is a sea turtle, and that thing in his nose that they're trying to pull out is a plastic straw. A lot of people like to complain about the paper straws, saying that it gets too soggy, but the paper straw fully decomposes within 6 months. Can anyone tell me how long the plastic straw takes to decompose?
Like 75 years?
No.
5 years?
No.
200 years?
200 years. As Floridians, we watch this sort of thing happen to our marine life. We see the plastic on the beaches. And as someone who lives on the coast, I'm very passionate about this, and I have done extensive research on the harm done to our oceans by the amount of plastic that goes into them. So today I'm going to tell you why we should reduce our plastic consumption and support legislation for this. First, I'm going to go over the problem and not only how it affects marine life, but also how it affects us. Then I'm going to go over how we can fix this problem. And finally, I'll be providing you with some visualization of what our planet will look like if we don't take action now. So let's start by taking a look at the problem. So to put this into perspective, Ocean Crusaders, which is a non-profit Australian organization that helps to clean waterways, has published a number of statistics on the amount of plastic in the ocean. For example, if you were to take every plastic bag in the ocean and tie them together, then they would wrap around the world over 4,000 times. They're the #1 thing sailors see. They kill marine life mainly by consumption or entanglement, and according to Ocean Crusaders, about 100,000 marine animals die each year from entanglement alone. And that those 100,000 sea turtles, jellyfish, fish, and pelicans, all of those animals, those are just the ones that we found and have been able to report on. So, also fish will see plastic and think it is a home, or they'll think that it's a vessel for them to migrate in, and they will, and according to Greenpeace, Floridians specifically have plastic to thank for providing transportation for the invasive species lionfish into Floridian waters. So what we're looking at when we think about plastic in the water is the slow but certain destruction of a very delicately balanced ecosystem. But why do we care? How does this affect us? Well, if we go back to the lionfish example, lionfish like to eat about 70 of our native species. Fish like grouper and snapper also like to eat those 70 native species. So they have to compete with lionfish, which means there's a decrease in population of all of our native species. On a broader scale, looking at how plastic affects humans, plastic from the ocean can end up in your bodies. So how does this work? Well, plastic never fully decomposes. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. And according to National Geographic, it can break down into such small pieces that it can actually travel through the cells in a fish's gut and into its muscles, which we eat. So these toxins from plastics can actually damage our livers and reproductive systems. But if I haven't convinced you that plastics from the ocean can affect you, then think about the fact that 70% of our oxygen comes from plants in the ocean that are maintained by the very fish that are dying. Ultimately, this is a major problem for not only them, but also for us. But we can take measures to reduce the amount of plastic that we consume. So the next thing I will talk about is my proposed solution, specifically what we can do at a personal level and what we can do at a societal level. So at the personal level, you can use things like reusable bags when you go to the grocery stores. How many of you have ever purchased a water bottle? All of you. How many of you have ever drank half of the water and then left it in your car for 3 days and then threw it out because it was too hot? Okay, I've done that too. What we can do is buy a reusable water bottle, and this will last a lifetime. Another thing we can do is stop complaining when it comes to the paper straws. You can just ask for another one if that one gets soggy. And we can do beach cleanups. There's so many things that you can do in your daily life, and all these little things add up. But now I'm going to touch on some of the things that we can do on a larger scale. So a lot of cities, states, and countries have started implementing taxes on plastic bags. For example, Ireland has placed a 15-cent tax on plastic bags. They did that in 2002, and that resulted in a 90% decrease in the amount of plastic litter in their waters. According to a report from the United Nations Environmental Program, Chicago also placed a tax on plastic bags, and they saw 42% of a decrease in the distribution of plastic in 1 month after implementation. Thomas Mies and his team at the Center for Environment, Fisheries, and Aquaculture Science found that they have observed the plastic litter in the oceans, specifically next to Northwest Europe, and they've been monitoring that for about the past 25 years, but only saw a significant decrease in the amount of plastic on the ocean floor when England introduced its tax. A lot of people will argue against this and say that people just buy their plastic bags somewhere else, or it's just shifting the problem elsewhere. But it's really not difficult or expensive to buy reusable plastic bags for the grocery store, or maybe bring your own from home. I know that government involvement may seem a little bit dramatic, but it actually has been proven effective in the locations that they've used it in and implemented these policies. So the final thing that I want to talk to you about is what our world will look like if we don't drastically change our actions now, and also what you can do to start to take action and support taxes on plastic bags. If we don't reduce our plastic consumption, in about 10 years, an estimated 25 million more tons of plastic will be in our oceans. And according to Chris Mooney, environmental reporter for the Washington Post, the first species to go will be the largest ones. So dolphins, whales, sharks, tuna. These large species are the ones that keep everything in check and keep the ecosystem in balance. Now, what would a world look like if we used far less plastic? Well, it would be a more balanced marine ecosystem. And that would mean hundreds of thousands less fish would die every year, and we wouldn't have to look at beaches that are ugly with plastic all over them. So I'm going to call on you guys today to sign the petition at change.org for the ban on plastic bags in Florida. And I've provided this link that I can show you after. I personally signed it. So, in conclusion, thank you guys. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for listening to me speak today about the problem with plastics and how they affect not only the marine life, but also us, my proposed solution for legislation, and also what you can do to help support this legislation. If my video of the turtle didn't really convince you at the beginning, then please just think about how plastics in the ocean might affect you. Any questions? No? Yes?
What would you say is the biggest impact of plastic on your life?
On my life? Well, living on the coast, I see it every single day. I see it in the water, driving to work. And that's just a constant reminder of how many fish die every year. And birds, you don't really think about the birds, but the birds die too. Just marine life in general. Any more questions?
Aside from paper straws, what do you think about using like metal straws, things that can be like reused and?
Those are totally fine. My brother actually just bought a metal straw and it kind of squeezes down into a little size and it attaches to his keychain, so I think that's a really good option.
Just as valid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions? No? Okay.